Crop Talk on Market Journal is supported by Nebraska's soybean farmers and their checkoff.
Well, finally today, the growing season for soybeans is just getting underway, and there are several more challenges ahead for Nebraska producers. We recently caught up with Nebraska Extension plant pathologist Dylan Mangel to learn about the potential disease risks soybean producers should be aware of. Mike Straub has more.
Areas around the state have faced different planting conditions, and there is a soybean seedling disease for all of them. We typically see more seedling disease in soybeans during cool, wet springs. However, these conditions mostly favor the fungal-like organisms called water molds.
So the state's kind of in different stages all over the place. You know, some growers got in early, so we've got some earlier, more developed beans going on, but we also have beans that are just starting to go. So very diverse stages. We've also got different environment conditions around the state as well. So places with more water, we're seeing some seedling disease showing up, just some of the conditions there. Those cooler, wetter soils, when those beans come up, they'll struggle a little bit more if they've got some fungi growing in the soil with them. Signs to look out for that are just damping off, and that's just sort of when a soybean grows and then gives up and keels over shortly after emerging. If you see signs of that, especially if you see pockets of it, you could think about you probably have some sort of seedling disease in there that's impacting those.
The most common method for disease management is the use of seed treatment fungicides. These products can provide protection against some of the pathogens that cause seedling diseases. However, mostly only provide protection during the first few weeks immediately after planting. Another option is delaying planting until more favorable conditions exist for rapid germination and emergence.
For management, if you think you have seedling disease, really right now it's too late to do anything. Once those beans are in the ground, once your treatment's on there, or you didn't put a treatment on, you're kind of stuck with what you got. But what you can do is watch for signs of that seedling disease and take good notes on it. Management's going to be done for this one ahead of season. So select a variety with good resistance for that disease, pair a seed treatment with that resistant variety that's going to work on that disease. And disease management, seed treatments, or varietal resistance is often disease specific. So figure out what seedling disease you're dealing with, because there's several. One way to do that is to take plant samples and send them into a diagnostic lab like the UNL Plant and Pest Diagnostic Clinic. Once you've sort of put that package together, if you still have problems in the future, one thing to think about is if you have a specific problem field, consider moving that around later in your planting rotation. So plant that field last, for example. It's just going to give it a little bit more time to dry out and warm up, which is going to be better for the soybeans.
Concerns about white mold arise earlier in the season during flowering. It is only during flowering stage that soybeans are susceptible to white mold infection. By mid-August, disease symptoms can be seen on individual or pockets of dead or dying plants.
White mold is sort of the first foliar fungi that you want to manage on soybeans, the first foliar disease you need to think about. Right around canopy closures when the critical time to control this is. So, you know, when you get to mid to late R1, early R2 on soybeans, when you have flowers present, that's when the plant's susceptible. So you've got to get out there with a foliar fungicide before those spores from the fungi start to fly. So before that R2 timing or around there, that's when you need to get out and manage it. In the past, we had a lot of people start to see symptoms later on, you know, into August. By that point, it's too late. The damage has been done. It's just the plant's finally starting to show enough of the symptoms that you're seeing it, but you got to get out there early with that one. So white mold's the next thing to think about, especially if you were dealing with it in previous years. If you were dealing with it then, you know you're likely to have it in that field and it'll probably show up again. If it's something you haven't dealt with in these fields in the past, just consider watching for it. But I wouldn't think that you need to rush out and apply an application where you've never had it before. After white mold, we'll have other diseases like frog eye leaf spot show up. That's a foliar pathogen. A fungicide application in situations where you've had disease pressure in the past might make sense in some of those fields. But just think about how much damage it's actually doing and try to pair your decision with how much damage is there. Last of all, late season stuff, we'll see sudden death syndrome show up. It's important to talk about that one because it's a foliar symptom, but it's not a foliar pathogen. So a fungicide application is not going to help do anything for that. That's actually impacting the plant down in the soil. So you can't really do anything other than select a resistant variety and pair that with the seed treatment in future years.
With much needed moisture falling in the recent past, seedling diseases will start to develop as well. To protect your future investment, always take time to do the proper pathogen identification. Sending samples to the UNL Plant and Pest Diagnostic Center is a recommended resource. Reporting for Market Journal, I'm Mike Straub.